Attention gamers. Look, I get it, we've all been there. You are setting up a little bush cheese because everything is better with a bit of cheddar when your level 6 dipshit submarine pings that he didn't put a skill point in his ult. That's first world problems, you think to yourself as you notice your top lane Cyan, clearly a Baus fanboy, has given up 5 solo bolos in 10 minutes and then decided to leave the game. Mr. I'm too damn good to level my ult is now announcing to the world that he will be running it down, and you know for damn sure if there's one thing League players are good at committing to, it's inting when they've promised in all chat that they will. So he feeds more than a food shelter. Your Cyan is probably already done jerking off to his Barbie dolls. You lose the game and then head to Reddit to make a post on losers queue that will inevitably get removed because that place is moderated by power-hungry fleshlight enthusiasts. If this has happened to you, I'm here to be that voice in the backseat saying losers queue doesn't exist. Because for it to exist, your very next game would have to also be full of inbred donkeys. For example, here in my next game you may notice that I seem to be arriving to lane alone. You may think Lamau Rav's next support thinks in black and white, but in reality she is probably just big brain trying to get me early solo XP. That's why we see after she burnt both of her sums to escape mid, she'll just be fashionably late to lane. Whoops, kidding, she apparently strategizes in a way that us mere mortals can't comprehend, as a little quarter health detour is now in the cards. The plan at this point is uncertain, but losers queue doesn't exist, so there's definitely a point to her showing at red and then positioning even further from safety so that she can have a better angle to completely miss her next queue. It turns out their jungler actually packed a smite in his lunchbox, so he gets the kill and the level up, and hey, it was a fun game while it lasted, but now it's time to head back to lane. Psych bitches, are you that gullible? This is a woman with a plan, and that plan is to ask this chicken farmer what the quickest way back to her own fountain is, which may look troll, but as you can see this ended up pulling both bot laners away from the wave for 9 seconds, and so this was actually genius. Meanwhile, during that uniquely revolutionary way for a support to start a game, we head up top to see how my Mundo is handling his tasks. Turns out the phrase spin to win does involve both spinning and in this case winning, but you can't just raise the loser queue flag after one solo 3-minute death. Just checking in down here, by the time Miss Melanoma arrives to work I'm already a level 4, which if you ask me is genius, to the point where supports should just AFK the entire game to give their ADCs solo XP all game. But let's cut over to my mid laner. She is completely oomed, which in a functioning brain typically means a fight would be doomed, but not to fear. 2 Chains is here, so she deems walking up to auto attack the goth is worth it. Unfortunately, her game plan of winning a level 3 fight as a manaless Lux didn't quite pan out, as she suffers a humiliating death to red buff damage as we shift our focus to if my jungler is capable of cleaning things up. And you may be thinking that all 4 of my teammates are collectively sharing a single brain cell, but that's just what losers Q conspiracists would say at this point. Anyways, I was raised as a young ADC main that my top priority is to make sure I get the last hits on these midget hoodlums, while my level 1 Mel remembers that the best way to support me is to continue giving me solo lane XP. Anyway, the level advantage comes in handy when I received my first visit from Henry Handcuffs, who dashed at the little Mexican boy carrying his camping equipment, and with it we were on the board. My top laner, the drooling grape on roids, wasn't having quite the same luck, as unlike my Nautilus from the last game, this Garen actually did put a skill point in his ult at level 6, which by the transitive property you can conclude a giant retro cafe looking sword from the sky will be solo boloing my top again. That said, he's just more accustomed to team fights, so in the 2v2 you can see he appropriately chases away their kindred so that our jungler can have an uninterrupted fight with their elo inflated spin master. Then, since he popped his ult at 80% health, it held about as much use as a microwave in Gordon Ramsay's house, as he then opts into not running towards the safety of his turret but instead chasing after the goal of not starting the game 0-3. My support, who has been playing a flawless game herself at this point, deems it her responsibility to call it GG up top. But here the glass half empty losers queue argument would be that me being alone early in life more than a ginger stepchild has left me low in health, but I prefer to see it that my alone time has allowed me to be the oldest kid at the park instead, so I slow a hoe combo and then we chase that Piltover mall cop down and take her out, and you can immediately see that this game is clearly not doomed. On an unrelated note, my team's Mundo somehow found himself in a worse position than a duck in a desert, which is attracting the attention of some bad actors. If losers queue existed, then none of my teammates would match the rotation and let this Mundo die alone, but as you can see, 2 of my teammates came to the rescue and did everything in their power to make sure he did not actually die alone by also offering to die themselves. But hey, at least no one on the blue team died, so that's a fun fact about that fight. I'm being given more alone time as a level 8 because my Mel just really does not want to learn her ult. As you see, I'm trying to make the best out of my situation down here by not just backing down. Fentanyl Frankenstein up here has now adapted his strategy in a few ways. For starters, he will now be prioritizing getting gold from tower plates, as neither minions or certainly not champions are a viable source, all while he will now be giving said gold to multiple enemies at once instead of just one. So generous. Down bot, I'm doing my best schoolyard bully impersonation against these young kids, as I'm just like eeny meeny miny mo with my autos popping flashes with my ult, you know, all in a day's work. But then unfortunately that weaponized sperm cell breeder comes down and all of a sudden it's World War III. Unfortunately this goat is not the goat, which means I get the kill and then we make like a wet fart and blow this shithole. Speaking of a level advantage, it looks like our Mundo is not exactly aging as well as this Cyberpunk 77 Garen, but no matter how many times my top laner solo feeds, convincing me that this is loser's Q would be like convincing a feminist to make me a sandwich. For it to be loser's Q, the rest of my team would have to be useless sacks of shit too, but clearly you can see after this Lux overextended and blatantly whiffed her entire combo and then failed to dodge the small Goth's abilities before dying. Her distraction was exactly what I needed to get a fat shutdown, which was only available because she got hard diffed in lane, so in a way she is just strategizing with Mel on unique ways to get me fed, which isn't sus, it's probably genius. That said, I'm shoving ways like Taylor Swift sings about Travis Kelce shoving his dick down her. Caitlyn decides coming to defend this tower with all 69 health she has is a good move, so I make the sky shit and then I desk pop a purple boy right into her for the kill. The gap up top is starting to make the Grand Canyon go real quiet right now, but luckily chasing down this Garen isn't the stupidest thing he's ever done in his life, but that's because the whole early game in this one exists. But like all of those other decisions, this one did leave him just about the same levels of dead. After the killing of Caitlyn under tower, we're able to rotate before their bot does, but unfortunately their mid laner is already on her third appetizer in Dragon Pit before ours arrives. They get the dragon, our jungler, while Mel answers the question, can you execute someone on the non-executable dance floor, and the answer is no, as I patiently wait for it to expire before nabbing my double. We head back trying to get our tier 1 to counterbalance the fact that their Garen is already working on tier 3, but Mini Wednesday Addams comes down to make it interesting. Mel does die, but it turns into an even trade as Lux arrives late while advertising to the world that she won't be a threat. Anyways, if this was loser's Q, my Silas would continue acting like himself, aka being total dog shit, but instead he decides to act like the enemy mid laner who is giga fed, the only difference being when he does her ult it doesn't seem to kill anyone like when she does, but thanks to my genius support giving me solo XP, I have rank 2 ult and rank 2 ults do this. Their kindred decides to get behind the wheel of a Ford F1 Rifty, but the kickback from impact means he's gonna be in a world of hurt as I patiently wait out him little immortality phase before tucking him in bed. I'm 9-1 with 12 KPA as my team is still getting destroyed in the kill count, but here's where I typically overextend and flat out lose the game for us, which is looking to be right on brand for me, but then I say fuck it, turn around, hit a right click and then draw a large dusted Dorito with my bullets. Then I continue right clicking on the Zoloft midget for the double. Unfortunately Garen, who has been fed more than a wildfire in a dry forest, has now made the trip, so I know to appropriately position like a capital P pussy, but this Silas doesn't quite get the picture. Hey, look at our Mundo applying so much pressure on the map that he has managed to attract and distribute gold to every single player on the enemy team at once like a Chad, while my team is taking advantage of said pressure by farming our own jungle safely, and that's called team synergy. Unfortunately, new scenery doesn't exactly change the outcome of what happens when you mix a Mundo with a 35 kill Garen, so we have the privilege of witnessing what's been going on up top all game this time. I then get introduced to Garen, to which I need to pop barrier flash and a rift clit just to survive my first fan interaction with the famous guy the announcer's been talking about all game, but unfortunately for my Lux not everyone can stay cool in the presence of such an icon. My Mel is doing support things, you know, venturing off and getting vision while 1v1ing their jungler, so even though this turned into something that looked like a Riley Reid video, you can't say it's loser's Q. My Lux is graciously being the recipient of every Vex ult, but it's really just a bait to get that hocus pocus homunculus under tower so I can get more gold for myself, which is honestly the best possible thing my teammate can do for me, and then I ride that adrenaline to kill off little Bon Boy right after as well. The good news was that I could now burst a bitch combo any goat shepherd we run into in the forest while we are overextended for no reason. Unfortunately, Lux keeping her streak alive of getting hit by every single Vex ult couldn't be capitalized on this time because I wasn't positioned under tower, and this minor fuck up also gave Garen quite the runway straight to my anus. And from my deathbed I could see that my 2 chains wasn't going to pull it off, and my Mundo's contributions weren't exactly going to be effective in this fight. If you were to look at the stats at this point, we have a 12 death Mundo, and 0-6 mid laner, a jungler who isn't looking so hot, and my Mel who is 4 levels behind me with 10 deaths. So if I were to ask you, does this look like loser's queue after my last game, your answer should be absolutely not. I just have to carry this myself, put this team on my back and slap all these hoes solo. I just need to stay in the back and shut down the Garen group with my team and right click like I've never right clicked before. Stay clear of Vex ult. So as I'm watching our team get aced again while my Mundo AFK pushes top lane, I think to myself how loser's Q doesn't exist and how a silver elo ADC should be able to win this game. It's my fault, not my Mel, not my Mundo. My Lux was amazing, my Silas was unshackleable. It was 100% you, your fault Rav, you should have carried that. Sincerely, a karma farmer on League subreddit.